Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. We have a 200% lead level 10 links video around probably one of the worst Dokkan Fest and definitely Saiyan Day units we've ever got, which is Dokkan Fest transforming Bardock. Not quite rainbowed, but 2 dupes is still more than good enough. As you can see, all of his links are indeed level 10, including when he is transformed. What is nice is his transformation is an active skill, so we can pop it whenever we want. But yeah, all the links level 10, 2 dupes. Don't forget, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, all the support is very much appreciated, and don't forget to let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But I think I'm going to do this in a similar style to the way I've done the Go Bros video, where we kind of talk about what they could do for this guy's EZA, because let's just say he needs one. Also, he's long overdue one. He came out in 2020. He's been out for just over 3 years, and I really thought he was going to get an EZA this year for Saiyan Day, and unfortunately he didn't, but he definitely needs one. In terms of our first rotation, I mean, we are linked up with LR Broly. I did bring him here just to like get a few links off, which is Saiyan Warrior Race, Saiyan Lineage, Prepared for Battle, and Fierce Battle. Fierce Battle giving us a decent attack buff. But turn 1, we are starting with 254k attack stat, 126k defense, which, do you know what, considering he, of course, his main selling point is he does stack on super. Not bad starter turn stat, especially turn 1. Also, I haven't flooded the team out with loads of low-class warrior category allies either. He does get an additional attack plus 10% per ally. But considering how, let's just say, not good those category units are, you know, I'm not going to force him on the team just to make Bardock look better. And I mean, it probably wouldn't do much for him anyway, just because, as I said, he's probably one of the worst Dokkan Fest we've had. Even on release, it's not like he's aged terribly, but it's not like he was good when he released. He was still quite bad. But turn 1, 2 mil. 2 mil. I know he's 3 years old. I know he hasn't transformed, but 2 mil is not great. I know he's not rainbowed either, but 2 dupes, 2 mil. Even more context, I know we don't have a full team of low-class warrior category allies, but 2 mil. His damage, to be fair, his damage has always been like piss poor. It's always been bad. Like, it's just not good enough, if I'm being completely honest. It's just not enough. Like, the fact that Bardock's main selling point is, of course, he's gonna stack. Yeah, that's cool, that's great and all, but he doesn't have any damage to back himself up with it. He doesn't stack quick enough, and he doesn't have anything else. It's just purely, it's kind of similar to Broly, the Dokkan Fest Imp Broly. It's quite similar to him, where all he has is his stacks, which by itself just isn't enough. And with Bardock not even having damage alongside that, he's just pretty much just stacking defense. And again, it's just not enough, especially with the harder content we have nowadays. It's just not enough to get him anywhere quick enough. Even if we went full-blown additional, gave him skill equips to give him even more additional, you know, him stacking twice in one turn, just relying on just that, isn't enough. Even the combined damage just doesn't do enough either to kind of give him any reason to be brought on any teams nowadays. And even before, even years ago when he dropped, you didn't actually really have much reason to be bringing him anywhere. He's just not good enough. I mean, in terms of what they could do, you know, he does stack defense. Maybe you could make him greatly raise defense rather than just by 30%. Maybe we'll bump it up to 50. That's not necessarily needed. It will just help him stack a bit more, a bit quicker. But they could easily keep that the same, but I think he definitely needs an attack boost on super, whether that's 30% also or 50% instead. There definitely needs to be a raise attack for one turn, and of course his stacking, of course, and then he needs to do more damage. We actually have kind of a bit more of a realistic rotation with Bardock here sitting next to him, which of course we're only up to 157k defense. We've got about 30k defense off that super, which isn't too bad, and I actually have not supered with Bardock there, which is a bit annoying. I clicked on the wrong orbs, but it's not going to make that much of a difference if we're being completely honest. He could get an additional super. He did get an additional super. Still just over 2 mil, which again just isn't good enough. Attack and defense plus 120 at the start of turn. Of course, his pre-transform state isn't going to be that much because the whole point is to use his active and get him into Super Saiyan. But naturally off an EZA, they could just bump those numbers up, you know, 140, 150, 160. Depends on how high they want to go and where they want to get his you know, his transform state to, but just bump that 120 attack and defense up to, you know, something a bit more, you know, recent, up to date, things like that. Of course, he then gets the additional attack plus 10% per low class warrior category ally on the team, which I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna have to stay there. You know, it's not that great because, again, low class warrior category allies, they're not that great. Like, you're talking like, what, Saiyan Saga Gokus, there's not that many good ones. You know, you're talking Bardocks, again, there's not that many good ones. You know, so that's probably going to stay there. I don't know, maybe to make it a little bit more valuable, maybe up the 10% attack to like 20, 30%, just because you're never really going to fill the team out with a full low class, you know, low class warrior category team, unless you're doing like a specific mission for like Super Battle Road, any future missions for any other harder content. Unless you're doing that, you're not going to have a full team of those category allies. So maybe, as I said, just to make it a little bit more valuable, with the lack of units you're going to have from that category, bump the attack up to like 20, 30% and maybe add defense on there as well. I think that would probably be a good idea. He also then has his attacks effective against all types when his Wicked Bloodline category enemy. You can keep that, you know, his whole kit is built around him being strong against Wicked Bloodline category enemies, sorry. I said, that's fine, you can leave that the way that is. But to give him a bit more, again, update the 120% attack and defense at the start of turn. Give him an attack buff on super, where again, whether that's 50% or the same 30% as defense, or unless you want to raise defense as well, make him stack a bit quicker. And I also think he needs to build an additional. We're seeing it a lot nowadays where Dokkan are giving units that stack some type of built-in additional, even if they already have one. You know, one of them will have a condition, and then the other one will just be standard, or like a really low chance to get it. I also did bring Heart Virus Goku as well to trigger experienced fighters, which means we do have a 281k attack stat. Just deep it, we're 6 turns in, we're on the god phase, Bardock only has 200k defense. Like, I know that's not that bad, but like, again, it's just not enough. And this will probably be the last turn before I transform him. I did kind of want to get the SSJ Bardock on for support, but it's not going to make that much of a difference if we're being completely honest. So next time he comes around, I will transform him. Yeah, in terms of that, because he is a stacking unit, his main selling point, his main kind of focal point is him stacking. Definitely give him a built-in additional, whether it's a 30% chance, whether it's a 50% chance. Give him a built-in additional. 2.3, again, it's just not enough, is it? Give him a built-in additional with no condition, just a built-in additional with a 30 or 50% chance of launching an additional super attack. Give him that. If you want to go cooler realms and give him 2, by all means go for it, but I think that's probably being a bit too generous, considering how bad, you know, he started off. I kind of want him to be a lot better than he actually is. But yeah, just a built-in additional with no condition, a 30% chance of launching an additional super attack, or a 50% chance of launching an additional super attack. Either or, give him that. And then because his transformation is an active skill and not just, you know, a standalone transformation that triggers, you know, by itself. Of course, his active skill conditions, we know in Dokkan, active skill conditions are never changed. They never alter. And to be fair, they're not bad. You know, for a unit that is as bad as he is, his active skill conditions aren't actually that bad. You know, you can transform him starting from the 4th turn. Yes, earlier would it be nicer, but you know, you can continuously stack him in base, and having it as an active means you can, you know, do that whenever you want. So the 4th turn is completely fine. And then of course you have the second portion, or it can be activated at any time when there is a Wicked Bloodline category enemy. Again, you have a specific one which speeds up the process, you know, a specific condition that makes you transforming quicker, and then you have the one that's turn based. As I said, there's nothing wrong with actually starting from the 4th turn. Again, would it turn earlier would be nicer. I said, we know Dokkan doesn't alter active skill conditions. And I said, I don't really mind. I don't really mind. And they're actually not that bad. They're not that bad. In terms of what else they could do to his passive before he transforms, I'm not going to lie, there's not a lot. You know, if you want to give him something on super to make sure he does some extra damage, has a bit more extra defense while he's stacking, go for it. If you really want to make this guy good, and they've done it with Gohan, give him the built-in additional. Or give him the built-in additional with a 30 or 50% chance of launching an additional super. Give him an attack buff on super. Update the starter turn numbers. You know, bump up the numbers per low class warrior category ally just to make it a little bit more valuable. You know, attack plus 20, 30%. Maybe add defense on there as well. Just attack, it doesn't actually matter. Just make the numbers a bit more valuable. And maybe give Bardock pre-transformation anyway. God. Because at least that way, you're minimizing the risk of this guy getting his cheap absolute absolutely clapped while he's trying to build up and while you're trying to stack him up. So the additional can help him stack up his defense a bit quicker, which is kind of one of his main focal points, one of his main selling points. Give him guard so he's not getting absolutely roasted by any of the harder content bosses while he's doing so. They did it with Gohan, and Gohan wasn't actually a bad unit. We just never got to see his transformation. Bardock has been bad since he's released. So give him guard, give him a built additional, update his numbers, and an SA effect to boost his attack. And I think Bardock is probably golden pre-transformation. I don't even think that's too overpowered. I don't think that's doing too much. I think that would make him very good and very viable for harder content in the game, which is exactly what we want. I'm not saying he has to decimate it, that's not the case. But he definitely needs to be viable and usable, which I think guard will be a great upgrade. But now that he's transformed, we also do have the SSJ, the Fizz SSJ Bardock support, along with a few more links active. So we are on a 477k attack stat, 262k defense, sorry. We haven't stacked him up too much, but again, I said he's not really getting that much off of his passive to really like bump his defense up. Of course, he no longer stacks now either. But in terms of what he's doing now, he is of course raising his attack and defense by 30%. I do believe if they are going to add an attack buff, which I do think they should, pre-transformation, you probably want to make it so when he transforms and wherever his defense has got to, because a lot of time in harder content in Red Zone, you don't really have that much time to stack a unit up all too much. So wherever his defense gets to, that's where it gets to, and that's where the additional and guard's going to help him kind of like be safer and have less risk to build up, and building up his defense a little bit quicker in general. So now, definitely on super attack, I would say bump it up to a 50% attack and defense, greatly raise attack and defense one turn. Other than that, the immense damage to the enemy and greatly lowering defense, that can stay the same. Plus 180 to start of turn, this is where Bardock starts to focus a little bit more on damage output rather than defense. Bump that up to 200%, defense is only 100%, so again, you can bump that up to 120, maybe 140, 150, just make it a little bit better than 100%. You know, just to make his defense worthwhile, but definitely just update those numbers. He then retains the attack effect against all types, but this time it's when facing extreme class enemies, which is completely fine because the majority of harder content in the game is against extreme class enemies. All of Red Zone, aside from the Gammas, are extreme class enemies, so that's fine. You don't need to touch that at all. He then gets Ki plus 3. Again, you don't actually really need to update his numbers. He's a Super Saiyan unit, like, you don't really have to give him more Ki. If you want to give him more Ki, by all means, or maybe give him Ki plus 3 and an extra attack and defense plus, I don't know, 20, 30, maybe even 50% just to give him a bit extra. Other than that, can just remain the same as well. He then also has a chance to perform a critical hit and evading enemies' attack plus 18% and reduces damage received by 18% for 5 turns from the start of turn. Again, they could bump up the numbers, but the reason why it's 18% is obviously because Saiyan Day the 18th, that's probably going to remain the same, but instead of 5 turns, maybe give him more turns of the extra, you know, critical hit and dodge chance and damage reduction, and then maybe give him, you know, an extra 18% or so crit chance, damage reduction and dodge chance with that Ki plus 3 as well. Maybe he just has a standard flat 18% crit chance, dodge chance and damage reduction, and then for an extra 5 turns or so, he gets the extra 18% on top of that. So maybe he can have, as I said, just a flat out 18% on all of that, and then an extra for like 5 turns, just to make him a bit more desirable, just to give him a bit more oomph once he's gone into Super Saiyan, you know, make it worth the transformation, make him really good. Especially because at this point, you could do a Gohan, and Bardock loses his stacking, and then he can also lose his guard at this point as well, and become a bit more of an offensive unit. So I think just a flat 18% on the crit chance, dodge chance, and damage reduction would be good, and then for 5 turns, he can have the extra 80% on all of that. So just to give him a bit more oomph. Right now, with all of these links, we're on a 320k attack stat, 218k defense. We haven't actually seen him super attack yet because Bardock decided to kill Vegeta in the last phase. So at least we'll get to see that now. He then also launches an additional attack. There's a high chance of becoming a super attack, and all attacks become critical hits when there is a Wicked Bloodline category enemy. That's fine. Again, he is hyper focused around facing Wicked Bloodline category enemies. And considering that has a condition, I feel like, again, we should have a non-condition based one. You know, maybe you could also give him something on super as well, just to give him a bit more oomph damage wise, because as you can see here, we're only doing 2.7 million, we've transformed him. He's got more attack. He's also raising his attack and defense by 30% on super. And he's only got like an extra, what, 400k on his attack stat? So yeah, maybe not only give him a 50% attack and defense raise on super, but then also give him like attack and defense plus 50% when performing a super attack, just to give Bardock a bit more oomph, because he's really lacking it. Like, really lacking it. As I said, yeah, keep that 50% chance, you know, of the additional super and your attacks becoming critical hits when there's a Wicked Bloodline category enemy. And then maybe again, just give him a built-in additional with no condition in Super Saiyan as well. So, you know, while he has a 50% chance of launching an additional super attack when facing a Wicked Bloodline category enemy, maybe when you're facing enemies that aren't a Wicked Bloodline category enemy, maybe he just gets a built-in additional guaranteed that has a 30% chance of launching an additional super attack as well. I think that would work really well for him. In terms of what else they can add, I don't see them really doing much else. But, of course, update the numbers. Instead of a 30% attack and defense on super, make it 50. Give him a built-in additional with a 30% chance of launching an additional super attack that isn't against Wicked Bloodline category enemies. Keep the Wicked Bloodline category enemy portion the same. Give him the flat 18% crit chance, dodge chance, and damage reduction. And then give him the 5-turn 18% extra. And then, yeah, maybe with the key plus 3, I said maybe you give him an extra attack and defense plus 50% or something. Or maybe 50% when performing a super attack, again, just to give him that little bit extra to make him, you know, a little bit better, give him a bit more oomph, considering the Super Saiyan form is meant to, you know, be a bit more attack focused, put out a bit more damage. And to do that, give him something on super. That'll definitely bump up his numbers. So for the most part, realistically, I try to keep my thoughts and opinions somewhat realistic to make a unit good. But Bardock does need a lot of help. And, you know, EZAs do not have to be the new best unit in the game, or not every EZA has to be the new best EZA in the game. It doesn't have to be like that. But he needs to be usable, and he needs to be viable in harder content, and that's what EZAs are for. I'm not saying he has to absolutely dominate every single Road Zone stage, but he has to be usable in, you know, a decent amount of them. And I do think the guard with a built-in additional before he transforms is a good way to do that, like what they did with Gohan. And as I said, just give him a bit more oomph when he turns into Super Saiyan, because his damage output has barely increased. Like, he's literally only 400k more on his attack stat, and we've transformed him. But yeah, I do think my expectations are, I do try and give the most optimal of what I would give these units to make them better. But I do also think I'm kind of being realistic in terms of my standards of what they could do to Bardock. But as I said, he needs a lot of help. You know, he hasn't been good since like a few months after he initially released back in 2020, 3 years ago. Like, he is literally 3 years and a month old. And he's aged so poorly because he aged so quickly after he released. So he does naturally need a lot of help. And hopefully when he does get his EZA, Dokkan does give him the help he needs. Otherwise, it will kind of be one of them throwaway EZAs where he EZAs, you use him after he EZAs, and you don't really use him after that at all. And EZAs are meant to make older units usable. So hopefully they give him the love he deserves, because Lord knows he needs it, and he's long overdue in EZA. But we'll have to see. But do let me know down in the comments what you would give Bardock for his EZA. Do you think I'm being a bit too generous? You know, do you think maybe he won't get something like that? What would you give him? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But for our final rotation, we're going to have him linked up, of course, with the SSJ Fizz Bardock. Almost perfectly linked up, aside from Saiyan lineage. But we also do have the support. 477k attack stat, 262k defense. We'll pop on Usher just to make sure we don't die. And we'll probably just about break into 3 million on this attack stat with support. But what is Bardock putting out? 4.1. Alright, we've jumped up quite a bit, but 4.1 almost perfectly linked up with a very good support from the Fizz SSJ Bardock. Like, you're getting a lot of help right now. Not only are you on a 200% lead, not only are you level 10 links, 2 dupes, which is more than good enough, with almost all your links active aside from Saiyan lineage, which isn't even giving him that much, and support, and you can only muster up just over 4 mil. Yeah, Dokkan, this guy needs help. Give it to him. He needs so much help. Give it to him. Again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments and what you would do to his EZA. And I'll see you next video, guys. Take care. Have a good rest of your day. And peace.